Welcome to Football Forecast Weekly, the most popular football program in America, featuring Dennis Tobin and Fred Wallen.
Welcome, everyone, to Football Forecast Weekly. I hope all you football fans out there are doing as well as Fred Wallen and I have been doing on this show. That's right. My special guest again this week is Mr. Fred Wallen, the Hall of Fame sports host, radio host, and more. The guy who knows more about sports than practically anybody in the world. That's Mr. Fred Wallen. Let me bring him on here right now. Welcome to the show, Fred. I have some comments from some viewers to read and go over.
This week's going to be interesting. A lot of injuries. Quarterbacks. Jackson, of course, in Baltimore. Stafford's not playing. The rest for the Rams. Of course, Jimmy G in San Francisco. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see if the backup quarterbacks can get it done.
Yeah, week 14 starts this week, and you're certainly right. Every team has injuries that affect them. So it's really hard, it's really good to listen to some information from some experts as well as stay on top of the injury reports, that's for sure. Before we get to today's NFL card, and I want to mention that Atlanta, Chicago, Green Bay, Indianapolis, New Orleans, and Washington. So we're 3 games short of a full schedule this week. They all have byes. Atlanta, Chicago, Green Bay, Indiana, New Orleans, and Washington. So we have a little more time on today's show. I wanted to make a couple of comments. First, this one's a compliment to me, Fred, about my analysis of the Bengals game and Andy Reid. Anthony N. from Florida goes, that was a great pick on the money line. He wrote this before the show. He says, it makes more sense than anything. I remember losing a lot on Andy Reid over the years myself. So I just wanted to add that because Andy Reid went on and lost that game last week, didn't he? Sure as hell he lost it.
And if they win the Super Bowl, what is he going to say?
He's not going to win the Super Bowl, so he won't have to worry. Okay, and then our friend Mr. Robinson in Philadelphia had a great weekend last weekend. Lots of sides and tolls, lots of games that we had. I just hope that when he sent the comments, he was meaning that we were helpful in his having such a huge week. But the big thing I wanted to discuss is really what's in the news. And we're still talking about how the states are ratifying legalized sports betting. So most of the comments I got was about our comments on California's proposals to legalize sports betting. And here's one of the best ones I got from Kurt in San Francisco. And I'm gonna read this quote so I don't get it wrong. The Indian casinos say DraftKings and FanDuel want to get kids hooked on sports betting, yet they want to do the same thing. They just want people to drive to their casinos to do that. They also appeal to white liberals by saying they have been persecuted throughout history, giving them sole control of California gambling is the least that we can do to preserve and strengthen their heritage. Can you imagine if the Jewish, Irish, or Italians ran that kind of a campaign? I think he has an exclusive point there. The Indians don't have a lock on sports betting in California. And then he goes on to say, unless you have a comment about that.
No, I just think you should have the right with your money to do anything you want. I should have the right. Anybody viewing us right now should have that right. It should be just very simple. I don't understand what's going on here. Governmental control is squeezing us, and it's just not right. I lived in Vegas doing Valley Sports Central, 5 days a week, and I have to fly back. I don't want to go to Vegas to make a wager. Why should I have to in California? I just think it's unfair.
It is unfair, and the way they had the propositions written, he went on to say that another part of the other proposal that didn't pass, people here are also hung up about how much money was being spent on this advertising. They're worried about homelessness. So they spent more money on advertising for the gambling campaigns than they did for anything else in the California props in the election time. So the question is, he says, why aren't Philip Morris, Chevron, Coca-Cola, etc., giving more to the homeless. Well, that's not their responsibility as a business, but people got so hung up on that, it shut them down from any legitimate debate on the measures on how to go about getting sports gambling legalized. So I thought those were some pretty succinct comments, and I think that kind of explains the whole of California. Look, they don't want these strict regulations on sports betting. They want the free enterprise to be able to open up and put their numbers out, and people come and go and set up their phone accounts and wager. I mean, it's pretty simple. I think it's pretty simple too, Fred. And I want to thank everybody that sent the comments in last week. We love to hear what you have to say. All right, let's get to the football now. There's one game on the board we can talk about here before we need to take a break. The Minnesota Vikings are at the Detroit Lions. Both teams look like different teams from the start of the year. The Detroit Lions were 1-point favorites last week. They're now 2.5-point favorites. And Minnesota's on the road. What do you think, Fred? Detroit minus 2.5.
I think 65 points or more will be scored in this game. End of story. Vikings, again, very fortunate last week not to lose to the Jets. Gave up almost 500 yards total offense to Mike White. So bottom line, the Lions have found themselves hard knocks. I'm knocking on wood. I think 65 to 70 points scored in this game. I don't know who's going to win, but it'll be a high scoring affair.
I agree with you. The line went from 51 to 53.5 on the total. Wise guy money quick is what came in. And that's where the total stands now. I look for it to go up. I agree with you wholeheartedly. There'll be 60 points in this game. And as far as the side goes, the line moved from -1 on Detroit to -2.5. Now I realize Detroit did pretty well last week, but Minnesota did well too. The only problem with Minnesota is they seem to get cautious towards the end of the game and they can't get caught up with. I have a hard time picking this game, but since it's under a field goal, I'm going to take the home team and ride with the Lions. Okay, the big game in New York this week. The New York Jets are on the road to take on the Buffalo Bills in snowy Buffalo. The line is Buffalo 9, Fred.
This one's too tough to call for me. It really is. The bottom line is the Jets lost a game that they almost won against Minnesota. Now you have the Bills finding themselves, but that 9.5 sort of scares me. As you indicated, the weather could be horrible. The weather's horrible. Obviously, the scoring is going to be down. Buffalo has really not shown me a rushing attack outside of the quarterback, who, of course, can hurdle like Superman. But the bottom line is, Alan, is spectacular. The Bills have found themselves. I think Mike White has found a home. But again, the snow sort of frightens me. And we're a couple of days before the game. We don't know exactly how bad the snow is going to be. Fred's going to pass, and we'll go from there.
Well, I look at this game as a battle in New York. I'm not leaving out the Giants, but the Jets and the Bills hate each other. I think Mike White is a big plus for the Jets. The Bills don't seem to get over the hump. I don't know whether it's the play calling or what it is. 9 points on the road in what could be a bad weather situation. I will take the Jets on this one and run. We'll be right back after this with more football selections. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. I'm here with Fred Wallen, and we're taking a look at Week 14 in the NFL. We're on to the next matchup. Two teams that expect a lot this season. Baltimore Ravens on the road to take the improved Pittsburgh Steelers. Last week, if they would have played before the quarterback was hurt, Baltimore was a 4-point favorite. Now with the Lamar out and with the Pittsburgh Steelers playing so well, the Steelers are 2.5-point home favorites. The total dropped from 41 to 37. We all know Lamar is the one that made the lines move. So what are you thinking, Fred?
Quarterback Huntley has never shown me a whole lot. And I mean, obviously, it's a major drop off from Lamar Jackson. On the other side, Steelers Pickett from the University of Pittsburgh. I got a lot of Pittsburgh fans, both collegiately and on the NFL, has really played well. I mean, he's really played sharp. And if you're going to be serious about this, I'm not a Harbaugh fan. I think Tomlin is a better coach than John Harbaugh. All things be considered, well, it's less than a field goal. I think I'm taking the Steelers here with Huntley quarterbacking for the Baltimore Ravens. I think the Steelers be the best side here, but it's very tough. And again, I definitely would have gone under, but now that it's dropped to 37, it's difficult. At 41, I definitely would have gone under. If it goes back up, perhaps that'd be the way to go. So it's an intriguing week again in the National Football League with all these quarterbacks out.
Yes, it does take its toll. It's kind of a guessing game. The Ravens, you're right about Huntley. I don't think he can get the job done at all. And the Ravens have had a very bad problem of giving up a lot of points at the end of games, because if it wouldn't be for the Ravens this year, my partner would be at the top of the circus standings like I would have been last year when I was hung up on the Raiders. So we hate the Baltimore Ravens, he and I, at the current point, because they have blown so many games. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I don't care what's quarterback's in. I am going to give Pittsburgh Steelers a vote of confidence here and take them too. I am impressed with Pickett. I'm impressed with the coaching. I'm impressed how they came back from looking like a shell of a team 5 weeks ago to being in the hunt. I'm going to take Pittsburgh minus the points here too. So that could be a solid one in our direction. Well, let's stay in the East and head on to the New York Giants-Philadelphia matchup. The Eagles are on the road, 7-point favorites versus the New York Giants. I'll take this to start with. First of all, 7 points is too many. Second of all, yes, Philadelphia is good, but they're going to play a little less hard now that they've got everything in the bag through the end of the year. The Giants can play well enough at home to get the job done. 7 points is too many. I'm taking the Giants plus 7.
Well, I got to say this, 2020 tie for the Giants last week against the Commanders. I don't think people understand that right now, Commanders are a very good team. Commanders, I think, have won 5 out of 6 and then out of the tie. So I don't think people are giving the Giants enough credit for even tying that game. And they were fortunate to do so. But so I'm not down on them. I think I'll take the points at home. And I think you made a very valid point here too. Eagles know that they're in. Eagles are going to protect their better players. They're not. It's impossible to play full out. Even if the coaching staff says play full out, the players know better too. So I think I would take the touchdown and take the Giants at home.
Yeah, I think Philadelphia is so far in the lead. It's a no-brainer at this point. I mean, they're not going to hurt their quarterback. They're not going to be running Jalen every play. They're not going to be doing things that's going to put them in a bad situation. They have home field locked up. And they're so far ahead of everybody that they can relax a couple of weeks, and I think they will. All right, before we go to break, I want to remind all of you to get online and playfortickets.com. That's right. Our sponsor here, playfortickets.com, is going to give away a trip to the Super Bowl in Glendale, Arizona, and $50,000. All you have to do is pick the side, total of 7 games, and you need to get started this week. You may not win the first week, but you want to make sure you enter every week, because the winner of this contest will be sitting at Glendale at the Super Bowl. So be sure to to check it out. And for all you audio podcast listeners, it's playfortickets.com. For all of you watching us on TV or video podcast, we'll put a QR code on the screen also, because we want you to make sure you do. So we'll be back in a minute with more football selections. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. Dennis Tobler here with Fred Wallen. We're down to the games that really look problematic this weekend. The Cleveland Browns are on the road to take on the Cincinnati Bengals in the battle for Ohio. The Bengals are 6-point favorites, looking like they found themselves. This game, too, is a big boost up from the 3.5 Cincinnati was favored by last week. So with the Browns not looking so good and Cincinnati looking real good, the line has jumped to 6. Cincinnati -6. Fred?
I have two best bets of the week. The over in the Minnesota-Detroit game and the over in the Browns-Bengals game. Watson has to play better than he played last week. Cincinnati's defense is all not that great. Cleveland defense only average. I can see 55, 60 points scored here. So my two best bets of the week, Lions, Minnesota over, right here, Bengals versus Browns over.
There you go. The total is only 47 now, so mark it down, everybody. In this matchup, I'm going to take the Cincinnati Bengals, okay? They're playing hot. They beat Kansas City. They might beat everybody from now on out. The Browns, they made a big mistake last week when they put in their new quarterback. They quit running the ball with Chubb. I mean, you quit running the ball, and then you expect your high-priced quarterback to come in and do everything for you. It's not going to work. They should have stuck to the running game and let it come to Watson as it come to him, but it didn't. And I think they'll have much trouble on the road, taking Cincinnati Bengals and laying the 6 here. Another nothing game now, Jacksonville Jaguars at the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee, 4-point home favorite, doesn't seem like enough to me.
They played horribly last week. I think you've got to assume they're going to play better. The general manager just fired after they were clobbered last week. So I think I think this is not a bad bet at all. I think Tennessee minus the points should win here. And again, Henry did not have a big game last weekend. I think he will here. He will score a couple of touchdowns and gain 150 to 200 yards. So let's go with Tennessee. Pretty easy win.
That's what I thought. I thought the number was way short. I don't know what people see in the Jacksonville Jaguars. Last week they were a short number and they lost. I just can't see them coming close in any of these late games. They're out of the playoff hunt. They never did get any better as the year went on. You're right about Tennessee. They're back home this week. They can run the ball at will. They're going to get the cover in this one. All right, now let's take a look at the Houston Texans and the Dallas Cowboys in the battle for Texas. Not much of a battle here. The Cowboys are on a roll and they're 17-point favorites. And I don't have any trouble laying the 17, just like I didn't have any trouble laying the 11.5 on Sunday night last week.
Well, bottom line is the Cowboys are playing for OBJ, Beckham. They have to score and score some more so that he comes in that direction. I don't think there's any question he's going to sign with the Cowboys, and he's going to add to that already solid offense. And obviously, Dallas, CeeDee Lamb and company at this point playing as well as anybody. But I'll tell you the truth. The coaching staff with the Cowboys in the past has sort of not thrilled me totally, and he didn't in Green Bay, and he's not now in Dallas. But we'll see what happens. And Jerry Jones hopes that you're right with that 17. You know my rule, though. I'm not giving more than a touchdown because you are going to lose 2 out of 3 times. In this case, I'd probably even squeeze up to 11 or 12, but 17 is a major number. So I'm going to pass on the game, but the Cowboys will score a lot of points.
There'll be a lot of points scored. It's blowout time. Cowboys are going to do it for sure. Okay, we'll be right back with more Football Forecast Weekly. Stay tuned. Listen up, football fans. For this week's best bets, call us at 1-888-604-6863. That's 1-888-604-6863. Be a winner. 888-604-6863. Let's take a look at this week's Sunday night matchup. Another schedule change, so be sure you check that out. This Sunday night's game is the Miami Dolphins at the Los Angeles Chargers. The Dolphins are 3-point favorites in this matchup after the terrible performance by the Chargers in Las Vegas last week. Fred, I'm going to make this one an easy one. I'm going to take the Chargers to bounce back, even though I hate their coach, because I think 3 points is too much for Miami on the road on the West Coast again.
Let's go, Brandon. Bottom line, I like the Dolphins pretty big. Tua had his first bad game of the season, first loss when he started a game for the Dolphins. So I disagree with you on this one. I'm gonna go with the Dolphins not to win 2 in a row. And by the way, I was doing really well on Play for Tickets until Brandon Staley found a way to lose to the Raiders.
Oh no. I mean, yeah, I sat there and clenched my jaw in that game. The Raiders destroyed San Diego or Los Angeles Chargers. I'm not sure if the Chargers are going to be able to pick up and go from this point forward. So we're opposite on that Sunday night game. I'm going to stick with the home team there. Now let's take a look at the Monday night matchup this week. This one here is not a change in the schedule, and it goes December 12th. All right, so we're halfway through the month of December, folks. The New England Patriots, are 1-point favorites on the road to take on the Arizona Cardinals, playing at home again, whether we don't think they can win or not.
Mac Jones screaming at the coaching staff, let me play, let me go deep, things like that. That doesn't help the Patriots. But on the other side, take a look at the Cardinals' record at home and take a look at the record against the spread at home. So I'm going to go with the best coach of this generation and maybe the best coach of all time. And we'll go with New England to beat Kingsbury and the Cardinals. And again, Kingsbury fighting for a job.
Well, Kingsbury's probably going to lose his job at the end of the year. And I don't know whether Jones has the qualification to be telling Belichick how to run the offense. So I don't know whether that's going to work or not. I don't think New England's going to be able to beat them on the road. I just don't think there's anything that they can study in the films. I don't think there's anything that they can make up for. It's just going to be a willy-nilly game. Arizona's going to be going all directions on offense and defense. And frankly, I just don't like the Patriots traveling all the way across the country playing in a hot stadium, which it will be. And I'm going to take a flyer and take the Arizona Cardinals. And we'll be back next week with more insights and information on Football Forecast Weekly. In the meantime, don't forget to go to playfortickets.com. Get your tickets in this week and win yourself a trip to the Super Bowl and $50,000. For Fred Wallen, this is Dennis Tobler saying goodbye and good luck.